Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. The story that we've been covering, and a story that's really bothersome to most people, of course, is the death on a cruise ship of Anna Kepner, an 18-year-old woman who was on a Carnival cruise with her family. Now, what's bothersome about this case is that implicated in her death is her 16-year-old stepbrother. And as more facts and circumstances come out about this case, it gets even more disturbing. And one of the things that was really just released is the fact that the 16-year-old stepbrother and the 14-year-old brother were staying in the same room as 18-year-old Anna. I'm a parent. Does anyone else see a problem with that? A 16-year-old boy whose hormones are raging with a very attractive 18-year-old stepsister? I see a big problem with that right away. And if these parents didn't, then they're not fit parents. So part of this investigation, an 18-year-old cheerleader goes on a dream vacation with her family on a cruise ship. But late one morning, while thousands of guests are enjoying the sunshine, Anna Kepner dies. She dies. Well, how did she die? The most chilling part? For hours, as the ship sailed on, her body lay hidden under a bed in her stateroom, and no one knew. How is that possible? The FBI is now trying to answer that exact question. So, this is very, very bothersome. An 18-year-old girl, Anna Kepner, had everything to live for. And as I said, this is really not a whodunit. It's really not a whodunit. I think when the autopsy report comes back, we're going to know the manner and the cause of death, right? The manner being homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, or undetermined. I believe, from my experience, this is going to come back as a homicide. What was the cause of death? I think the most likely scenario here is asphyxia, strangulation. It bothers me tremendously as an investigator, as one trained to look at the seedy side of life here, is that this potentially is, and no one is even mentioning this yet, is that this was, I believe, an attempted sexual assault. And Anna resisted, and for resisting, lost her life. All the earmarks are there of a situation like this. And really, what the FBI is probably doing is doing a deep dive into the 16-year-old stepbrother's background. What was he like? Did he have any prior incidences of potential assaults like this? What kind of student was he in school? Did he have mental health issues? And one of the reasons I also say this is because the family was advised by an attorney, and I'm sure this was through the advice of attorney, to protect him some way. So they got him away, and where is he right now? He's in a hospital, which sort of secretes him away in a place where the FBI does not have investigative access to him. And I wonder if all the correct forensic techniques, forensic steps were taken. In essence, did they photograph his body? Did they get a DNA swab from him? Photographing his body would have perhaps shown marks, indications of a struggle. So then if they didn't do that because the pressure for a cruise ship to do this quickly, get back to shore and get the hell out, how long did they have access to that crime scene? Once the ship leaves Miami and goes back out to sea, they can't revisit the crime scene. In fact, someone may be staying in that very room where a potential murder took place. So all of these things give me pause. And I'm not criticizing the FBI. I don't know what they did yet on this case. However, I'm just questioning what occurred here, what investigative steps here. And we'll get more into that later on. Until we do, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your thoughts, hold on to your service dog. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Joining me today is retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Bill, good morning. Good to see you. Thank you for having me on this morning.
You know, Mike, in my monologue, I covered many things that was not specifically released yesterday or the day before. And how bothersome is it to you, not as a police officer, sergeant, not as an attorney, but as a parent, that these parents allowed their 16-year-old son to stay in the same room as their 18-year-old daughter? Is that not a problem, Mike?
Bill, it's inviting trouble where it's unnecessary. This is a blended family, and maybe this is one of their first vacations together, and they're trying to work all the relationships out. But this is not a good recipe. I've got children, you've got children, and this is not something that you would normally do. You would not want to do it. Maybe they did it to save money or whatever, or maybe they thought this would work out. However, it didn't. And when we hear about these things as a parent or as a police officer, and you go to a crime scene and and there's an allegation of some sort of violent crime involving young people, and you start to sit there and say, okay, who had access to this person? What was their relationship? You know, when you start to see some warning signs, because you see these things again and again and again occurring in your career, it sends off the alarm bells right off the bat.
You know, Mike, one of the steps in a case like this, and of course the FBI is holding everything close to the vest as they always do, I would 100% procedurally do a rape kit, do a sexual assault kit on the body of Anna Kepner. Also, I would do forensically process the body to include scrapings underneath her fingernails of potential DNA that would have been perhaps under there as evidence against her assailant. This is not a mystery. And if this does, in fact, and you know, we're not just assuming, there are certain indicators that this is a murder. And one of them, the most serious one, I believe, well, there's a couple of them. One, we know that the 16-year-old stepbrother was in the room with her, right? We know that.
Yes.
The other thing is he slept on the bed with her dead body underneath it, and it turned out the body was naked. All right? That's some of the facts we're getting now. So it's not a far stretch to say, look, this appears to be a sexual assault that ended in murder because there was a struggle involved here. And the body will have indicators of that if our presumption here is correct. And I think we probably are correct, Mike.
Bill, I'd bet my paycheck on it. You and I talked about this. And the moment we started talking about it, I agreed wholeheartedly. We've seen this. We've seen this thing happen time and again. This kind of situation where people are put into the situation, and because one person is acting aggressively towards another, here is this attractive young girl. She may be sleeping. I think she went to her cabin because her stomach hurt, and she ends up, they find her body naked, buried under some, maybe a blanket and maybe some like life preservers or something like that. But you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that's probably what happened. I'm going to bet my paycheck. I'm going to bet my paycheck that she also has some of his skin cells from scratches she may have gotten in fighting with him, and I would think that would be a good indication that this was an attempted sexual assault gone awry. She resisted. He wanted to keep her from screaming, so he strangles her. So, we're going to look for a broken hyoid bone, marks around the neck, and that sort of thing and bruising. And I think, and maybe the blood vessels in her eyes.
Yeah, petechial hemorrhaging.
Is that what they call it? Petechial hemorrhaging?
Yeah.
Right there, because I've seen that too. And, those are the signs, and you can't hide those things. So we kind of know where this is going.
Mike, this was posted by her uncle on a social media site. I need everyone's help on this. If you haven't heard this story, then you've been living under a rock. This is my niece, Anna Kepner. She was 18. There's a picture of her on this meme, and was on a cruise with her dad, stepmom, and other family members. I cannot stay silent about this matter any longer. The stepmom's son killed her, stuffed her naked, beaten body in a sheet, and stuffed her under a bed and covered her with life jackets. Then she slept on that bed like nothing happened. He told his stepmom when no one could find Anna on the ship. So yes, they know who did this, and it sickens me that the father, Chris, remains silent about it. Please pass this on till maybe it gets to someone that can do something about it. If nothing is done, it will all come out on the 20th. At least that's what the stepmom has said after treating blah, 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 and then it ends. But there's someone from the family jumping right ahead and saying what this is, and that's not coming from a law enforcement source, so it's not in stone but somehow some of this information leaks out to members of the family. When a death like this happens in international waters, it triggers a complex legal web. It's not a matter for local police. It falls under federal maritime jurisdiction, which is why the FBI took the lead on the investigation. Their involvement sent a clear signal that the authorities were taking this case very seriously from the very beginning. Of course, they're going to take it seriously. This is screaming homicide from minute one. For passengers on the same deck, the end of their vacation was abrupt and unsettling. They received notifications for priority debarkation with a message explaining that authorities would be conducting an investigation in their hallway. As they disembarked, FBI agents boarded, sealing off the cabin and beginning the painstaking process of collecting evidence. Processing a crime scene on a cruise ship is a huge challenge. A ship is a transient environment. By the time the investigation began, hundreds of people had passed through the hallways and the cabin itself had been occupied. Sources familiar with the case have raised concerns about whether the scene was disturbed and if evidence might have been compromised before authorities took control. The core questions for the FBI were clear. Who is in that cabin with Anna, and who went to such lengths to conceal her death? So that is the background of this. But however, it's not that complex because they can figure out exactly who went in that room through digital evidence. There's cameras all over cruise ships. Folks, if you're not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family. Like that helps our algorithm, helps our show grow. And if you want to contribute financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels and a YouTube channel membership with which many of you rejoined after our hiatus, our unwanted hiatus for almost 2 weeks. So folks, this is a really complicated case in the way that now lawyers are involved. And where is the 16-year-old suspect? We will get back to that in a minute.
Have you or a loved one been injured in an accident with a commercial vehicle, like an 18-wheeler, delivery van, bus, or rideshare, and you weren't at fault? These cases aren't like regular car accidents. They involve corporations, insurance companies, and complex transportation laws. You need an experienced attorney who knows how to fight and win. That's where the team at 911 Law Call comes in. We connect you with top law firms that specialize in commercial vehicle accidents and have a proven track record of securing real compensation for victims just like you. The consultation is free. There are no fees unless we win. Call 866-814-2911 now. That's 866-814-2911. 866-814-2911. Justice for commercial vehicle victims starts here. 866-814-2911. No fees unless we win. That's 866-814-2911.
This is a little clip from Banfield on NewsNation.
That Anna's body was stuffed under her own bed just feet away from him. She was covered in blankets and life jackets. A cleaning worker made the awful discovery the following morning. Joining me now with much more on all of this is Josh Boswell. He's a senior reporter for the dailymail.com. Josh, I keep wondering, it's such a mystery as to how this young girl died and what the condition of her body was when it was discovered by the cleaning crew. Do we have any information at all on how she died, cause of death, or the manner in which she was discovered?
No, that is one part of this that remains a real mystery. And, it's worth pointing out that the FBI has not declared that this is a murder, and they haven't said that she was killed. Her body was found. She was found dead. We don't know what exactly she died of, and the coroner has not released any details about the cause of death yet.
Then just, speaking of this surveillance video and the patterns of who walked into that room and when, and who walked out of that room, do we know if Anna died in that room?
So that's what we can surmise, because what we've learned, and my colleague Ben Ashford on my team at Daily Mail has done some fantastic reporting on this. He got from sources close to the family and a source who has been briefed on the investigation that there is CCTV footage that it shows Anna going back into that room and never coming out again. And then her body was discovered. So we can deduce from that that she died in that room.
So the implications of this and what they're trying to say, Banfield actually asked a good question. Could she have been killed somewhere else and transported back into the room? And the answer is no, because she was seen alive going in that room, and that's the last time she was seen alive. So if she was killed somewhere else and brought back to, they would have video footage of that. So that question is answered, and it's a very good question, because everyone would want to know that. Is the location where she was found the location where, they're using the words that where she died. Well, I think she died at the hands of someone else. And the definition of homicide is death caused by another. And I would bet, as you say, bet your paycheck that this is going to come back when the medical examiner releases the autopsy results, and this is going to come back. The manner is going to be homicide. And I would also bet, and this is not conclusive, that the cause of death will probably be asphyxia, small quarters. And that's the way a situation like this can end. It's a horrible story. And we'll be able to tell, as you alluded to earlier, certain things, bruising around the neck, petechial hemorrhaging around the eyes, little things like that. And then, of course, we hope that the protocol was followed in the response to a dead body. Everyone watches the show, The Death Investigator with Barbara Butcher. Did a medical legal investigator respond and do an on-scene investigation of the body and of the crime scene? That, a death on a cruise ship, everything is rushed, because the cruise ship is putting tremendous amount of pressure on the investigators to complete the investigation as quickly as possible so they can get back out to sea. And I don't know if a thorough investigation was done because of this. The other thing is that Mike and I mentioned earlier is that absolutely a sexual assault evidence collection kit should have been done in this case. 100%. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, let's hope that all those protocols that, should be followed, because if you do have anything that looks like suspiciously at all like a possible sexual assault, you have to do that. You have to do the fingernail scrapings. You have to do all of those things to make sure that you don't miss something, because this is important. The one factor favoring law enforcement is that we know that is the one crime scene that she was not killed somewhere else and put there. So you would have two crime scenes. One might be in some area where someone had been, where hundreds of people have trampled on since then, and then you find her someplace else. And that would really mess up the investigation. Here you have one cabin only, a small space, very, very limited suspects. We kind of we can figure out exactly who is suspect number one right off the bat just by looking at surveillance video. If they follow all the protocol, they'll get hopefully DNA evidence. If they get DNA evidence, fingernail scrapings, anything like that, then you'd have to perhaps do investigative genetic genealogy, because this young man's suspect's DNA probably has not ever been uploaded in CODIS, of course. Maybe you'd have to do an IgG, or you'd have to get a search warrant and do a buccal swab. But, this case won't remain open for long. It will be closed. It will probably close within a short period of time. But I think even though that, the crime scene was disturbed by the cleaning lady, it probably is intact enough where the FBI can get a lot of evidence from the body and from the room.
Absolutely. From the chat, Venus Gal 2706, the ex-boyfriend's dad said the teen was obsessed with her, even got on top of her once when she was sleeping, and he tried to talk to the parents about it, but they ignored it. So could there be some parental neglect here? And could Anna have been shouting out for help on deaf ears? Because clearly this is, in my mind as a parent, this is not okay to have a 16-year-old boy who's a stepbrother to stay with a 18-year-old stepsister in the same room. It's not okay, and we don't know very much about this 16-year-old boy and his background. Muggsy Siegel, thank you for the $2 super sticker. Very much welcome. And I'm so happy to see that the super stickers is working right now, because apparently that was part of the hack too, and we had lost that, and now it works. Muggsy Siegel, thank you for showing that it does work. Deborah Sullivan, if the 16-year-old is responsible, it's possible he won't be charged as an adult. He could get a small sentence and released back into custody with no criminal record. Deborah Sullivan, 7479, I don't think so. I think if they can prove that this is a homicide, if they can prove that he did it, he will be charged as an adult. Absolutely. And if there's special circumstances, like an attempted sexual assault, it knocks this charge up even higher. Mike, you're the attorney to speak to this.
Yeah, Bill, you have some differing statuses: status offender for minor things like running away. You have juvenile delinquent for kids committing minor crimes, actually hurting somebody or breaking windows and things, stealing a car. And then you've got the juvenile offenders. Mostly it's kids either 12 or 13, all the way up to the age of 16 or 17 before they become an official adult. They would be considered adult crimes. So even though they're in their minority and have not yet reached their majority age of, say, 18 or 17, depending on what state they're in, because of the violence incurred, because of the result, like, say, a rape or a homicide, therefore they could be charged as an adult and actually stand trial as an adult and face an adult penalty. And not just like, okay, we'll consider you an adult just for the trial, and our jurisdiction will end at age 18. No, that person could receive 30 years to life. They have to have a possibility of parole, but they could do a 20. It's possible theoretically they could do, like I say, 25 to life with possibility of parole. That is not off the table at all. That is a very real possibility in these kind of cases.
Mike, I'm not remembering the name, but a couple of months ago, we covered a story of a paddleboarder who went out on a lake and at some campgrounds, and it was in Maine.
Yes.
And some camper, I believe he was 17 years old, murdered her. And we suggested right away that this was an attempted sexual assault, and she resisted and he killed her. And this is looking like the same thing to me. This looks even more obvious than that. And there are so many really disturbing red flags to this case. This is from Fox 35 in Orlando, this clip we're going to watch.
To celebrate the life of Anna Kepner. A memorial service just began for the Titusville teen who died while on board a Carnival cruise ship. Many questions still remain surrounding the 18-year-old's death. Right now, her 16-year-old stepbrother remains a suspect. And Fox 35's Marie Ettinger is joining us live tonight in Titusville. So, Marie, the FBI is still staying so tight-lipped about this investigation.
That's normal, but right now the focus for the family, as far as we can tell, is on the celebration of life that is happening behind me at this church. We've seen people flowing in for the past hour or so. You can see how packed this parking lot is, just demonstrating how loved this girl was. Fox 35 News has reached out to the FBI almost every day since 18-year-old Anna Kepner was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship. But the FBI has not released information about the case and hasn't even said whether it's investigating Anna's death as a homicide. An attorney not affiliated with the case says that's how things are supposed to be.
The court of public opinion is very volatile. So the FBI, being true professionals as they are, is keeping their case, keeping their details close to the chest.
But we found out about the potential for criminal charges because of a court filing in divorce proceedings between Anna's stepmother, Chantel, and her ex-husband, Thomas Hudson. That filing says Thomas and Chantel's 16-year-old son, Anna's stepbrother, is a suspect in her death. Chantel says she can't testify in that divorce proceeding for fear of incriminating herself or her son.
When you're a 16-year-old, most of the time, the government is going to impugn on you that you knew better, and they'll try you as an adult.
Chantel is somewhat new to the family. She and Anna's biological dad, Christopher, just got married about a year ago. Before that, Christopher was married to Tabitha Donahue for the majority of Anna's life. And before her was Anna's biological mom, Heather Kepner. Fox 35 spoke to her about her daughter's death.
Holding up, I guess, as best as you can. Try not to fall apart.
She tells us Anna has been living with her father.
She was a really good child. I mean, she never really complained about much. She never cried that much as a baby. And as a teenager, she was the same. She was just always happy.
The entire family has been expressing their love for Anna and their shock over losing her.
She was always trying to make everybody smile. She was always happy.
There is a hearing coming up in Chantel and Thomas's divorce proceedings. That's in 2 weeks. Live in Brevard County, Marie Ettinger, Fox 35 News.
So, all the signs of, I believe, parental neglect are here. Why didn't the father listen to his daughter if she, in fact, told him that, she felt threatened by her 16-year-old stepbrother? This was like the perfect storm for something really bad to happen, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, denial is a very strong motive here. The father may have been in denial. I would imagine that she may have spoken to her father and said, look, Dad, I'm not really comfortable with this sort of situation. And the father might be very much in denial, not have his antennas up, not wanting to even confront the possibility that with his new family, that he's just made with his new mom, that you would want to throw some cold water on that relationship and maybe make allegations against a stepbrother that you're feeling comfortable. This is not uncommon, unfortunately, for family members like parents and uncles to try to look away, try to put it down, try to ignore and deny that there's anything wrong. Let's give it time. Let's see how we work. Let's work this all out, and not actually listen and actually hear what that daughter is saying. This is not uncommon whatsoever. So I think maybe there's a little bit of denial going on within the family about how that boy was that young man was reacting to that young lady joining that family. And that's sad because it's not that uncommon.
You know, it reminds me of the expression, you had the fox guarding the chicken coop, you know?
Yes.
You put a 16-year-old boy in the room with not really his sister, a stepsister. So she's, you know, and as I said, his hormones are raging. Only bad things are going to happen at that point, you know? And I think the 14-year-old told the ex-boyfriend of Anna, or maybe even the current boyfriend, that he heard like an argument in the room and some things breaking and things. So that could have been the beginning of the assault.
Yeah.
And disturbing factors. And look, the FBI knows all of this stuff. They're just being, as they always are, which is good in a case like this, keeping silent, keeping what they know close to the vest. There's no doubt the FBI knows at this point, A, I believe, and you know, that this is a homicide, and B, they know the cause. The medical examiner has told them, but it is not for the public's ears yet. And the big investigative tool in this case is the digital footprints. The FBI began the task, of course, immediately of reviewing thousands of hours of CCTV footage from cameras covering nearly every public space on the Carnival horizon. They were looking for any sign of Anna in her final hours, who she was with, where she went, what her demeanor was. Beyond the video, agents are meticulously analyzing electronic swipe card data. Every time a passenger or crew member uses their key card to enter a room, it creates a digital timestamp. This data is critical for building a precise timeline of who entered and exited Anna's cabin before and after her estimated time of death. Investigators are also examining her cell phone records, hoping to piece together her final communications. Simultaneously, the FBI and ship security conducted interviews with passengers, crew members, and most importantly, Anna's family, who were traveling with her. This included her father, her stepmother, Chantel Hudson, and her step-siblings. What started as a search for clues would soon lead to a shocking revelation that pointed the investigation in a startling new direction, directly inside Anna's own cabin. So, not advanced rocketry. They see that on November 6th, in that evening, Anna went in her room and she was alive. That was the last time she was seen alive. Who went in that room? The 16-year-old stepbrother. Not so hard, Mike, to surmise what occurred here. So the FBI is just trying to, again, the cliche, cross their T's, dot their I's. But we have to be concerned of how good was the crime scene, because a crime scene like this on land would be kept for a couple of days so that the investigators could go back to the scene. One of the things that they would absolutely collect are the blankets that wrap the body around for forensic evidence. They would absolutely keep that, photograph in depth. And as we said, we hope that medical legal investigators responded to that scene and they didn't wait to just examine the body once it got ashore in Miami, because then it's too late to collect some of the evidence. Mike.
Yeah, you got, as you said this many times in the show, you got one chance and you got to do it right, because you don't get a second chance. And many times you've seen crime scenes in apartments, in homes. That's very different than being out on the street. You know, you just think about some of the crime scenes you've handled where people have been stabbed to death or shot to death out on the street, in New York City, and you're trying to cordon a section of the sidewalk off, and there's so much activity. If there was bullets involved and there was an automatic, the bullet, the shell casings bouncing around, you got to find those shell casings. People might pick them up, people might kick them. You have this opportunity because this is a small cabin, but because of the nature of the surrounding area, it's a cruise ship, and there's a lot of people, and people had to walk past that that cabin many times, and you hope that the people who found her, the maintenance people, you hope that they didn't do any sort of disturbing of the crime scene. If you've got a good, as you say, death investigator going in there, you have it photographed, they take their time. It may be 2-3 hours, whatever time they have, at least do a quick, it's going to have to be quick, but it's going to be a thorough investigation. And that is the one saving grace, is that it's not out in the street where you've got temperature, you've got moisture, you've got rain, snow, sleet, people walking by, kicking stuff around, not paying attention. Hopefully they got all the protocols done correctly, and we'll get a definitive answer on what exactly happened when they try to do a crime scene reconstruction.
Mike, one thing you said there, I don't agree with.
Okay.
The processing of the crime scene doesn't have to be quick. There would be a lot of pressure.
Oh, yeah.
For it to be quick from the cruise ship, but the FBI can hold that damn ship as long as they want.
I hope so.
And they would, of course, have pressure from the corporation, from the captain, all of those things. But guess what? They don't have to do a quick crime scene. They have to do a thorough crime scene. And if the ship doesn't like it, that's too bad. I want to go play this from News 6 from Miami.
Kepner's 16-year-old stepbrother, quote, is a suspect in her death on a Carnival cruise ship. That information is not coming from law enforcement. It's coming from the 16-year-old's parents. Those parents were just in court.
If the court isn't aware that apparently this has been made national news.
This online court hearing involving a child custody case took place just hours before a memorial service honoring Anna Kepner, who was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship. The teen was joined on that cruise by her father, her stepmother, and at least 2 of her stepmother's children from another marriage, a nearly 9-year-old daughter and 16-year-old son. Those 2 children were the subject of this court hearing.
Can I speak?
This is Chantel Kepner, the children's mother and Anna Kepner's stepmother. She's in a child custody dispute with her ex-husband, Thomas Hudson, seated on the right. The former couple says their 16-year-old son, quote, is a suspect in his stepsister's death.
Well, Your Honor, it's our understanding that because the cruise was in international waters, that the young child, not the 9-year-old, but the 16-year-old was allowed to drink. The teenagers were given their own room in which to stay. Just a lot of circumstances that showed that the mother in this case was not exercising appropriate supervision over this child or the other child involved.
Chantel Kepner's attorney disputes that.
There are videotapes on the ship that confirm that there was absolutely no drinking, and that and DCF investigated and saw that there was no alcohol in mom's house whatsoever. So I'm not sure where that's coming from.
There was no resolution to the child custody dispute, which will be handled at a future court hearing. We did learn that 16-year-old stepbrother was taken to the hospital after the cruise for undisclosed reasons. He is now living with a relative on his mom's side of the family as the FBI investigation continues.
That, Mike, we discussed earlier, is lawyering 101. Get him out off the street, get him in a hospital, say he's having a mental breakdown, and that will protect him from the FBI showing up and locking him up till he's released from the hospital. If in fact this case, if they do have probable cause, which it seems they will have probable cause, and there will be an arrest made. That is my prediction. There's too many things with this case that scream foul play. We're going to go to a quick commercial, Mike. And now a word from our sponsor. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You must be 21 years or older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE New York or text Hope New York in New York. You know, Mike, so many things about this case I really don't like, that are really red flags to me and red flags to anyone who's following this case. And just the thought that this beautiful young lady, 18 years old, who had everything to live for, lost her life in a situation that was just, there were so many things wrong with it. Like, you know, this is the family, a blended family. And the father, I believe, the biological father of Anna, this is his third marriage, apparently. And then the mother, Chantel Hudson, she's in a custody dispute with her ex-husband over this. Now, one of the keys, of course, to this case is studying this family and what are the issues here, and what are the issues with this 16-year-old suspect who is the stepbrother of Anna. I would believe, and again, the FBI knows all of this stuff. We don't specifically know it, but we can sort of, and I don't like to use the word assume because we all know what that means, but we can look deeply into this. And I would bet that the 16-year-old has issues. I'll put that mildly. Mike.
Yeah, you know, when you get this sort of situation where there's several marriages on the stepmother's side and on the biological father's side, there's several marriages, you know that poor child has not been raised in a very steady, normal circumstance for many years, and therefore she's been subject to this sort of danger. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what could possibly go wrong in this sort of situation, placing children in a cabin that they were there by themselves and parents were in another, who knows where they were. It just screams out the possibility of wrongdoing. There's so much that could go wrong in this situation. They place them there. And the stepmother understands that this is going to look bad. And obviously it's an issue now for her other children and her previous husband. It just shows you what the instability of families can do and what the possible consequences are when you may have a 16-year-old and he himself, the 16-year-old boy, turning into a young man, he himself has probably not had a very stable life with different step and parents and maybe brothers in the past and stepfathers. It's a recipe for disaster, and this is unfortunately one of the symptoms of a lack of discipline and a lack of stability in a family, because this boy needed to have a strong father figure to direct him as he's entering puberty, and he probably did not get that.
No, absolutely not. From the chat, Rick Nelson, I think both parents should be charged also. There's a possibility there could be some neglect here, and they could potentially be held responsible. And I agree with you, Rick, but the problem with that is that's not going to bring Anna back. They're horrible parenting in my mind in this case, to allow a 16-year-old son stay with an 18-year-old daughter who's not his biological sister. Just really, really bad decision to make. Michelle Harper, not only go wrong, Chantel is saying he was already unstable mentally. Why would you take your unsafe child on a cruise where they could? Michelle Harper, 8822. I didn't read anywhere specifically that the son, the 16-year-old, has mental health issues, but I'm assuming it because it just screams of that. But this also screams of really, really poor parenting, bad decision. Bio Mom from Venus Gal 2706. Bio Mom said family ref not welcome at funeral apparently. Well, there was no funeral yet. There was a celebration of life yesterday. She said she was going to wear a wig and heels and disguise herself to attend. Not sure if she was joking or not. Well, that's Cheryl Springfield 4391 from the chat. Parental neglect for days. Stepbrother's obsession was known. Crawling on top of her while she slept and busted by ex-boyfriend was still on FaceTime with Anna. This was a disaster in the making. Cheryl Springfield, you're so right, and that's what we see that here. And I don't know if everyone is in fact seeing that. And that's, I'm sure, and as I said, all of these questions, all of these things that we're raising, I'm sure the FBI knows all about this. And this is from Fox 35, this clip here.
Why experts say an arrest could be close.
Developing story right now. The 16-year-old stepbrother of Anna Kepner is now a suspect in her death. That's according to new court documents. Kepner is that teenager from Titusville who died on board a Carnival cruise ship. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Brown.
And I'm Luann Sorrell. Those civil court documents say Kepner's stepbrother has now been removed from his home because he could be a threat to his other siblings. Fox 35's Esther Bauer is live tonight in Brevard County. So, Esther, you've been digging through these documents all day. What else have you learned?
Luann, those documents say it's also believed this 16-year-old stepbrother already has a lawyer. What's clear tonight is the FBI thinks someone in Anna's own family that was on that cruise with her could be the reason she is not here today. Now, no one has been arrested or charged in Anna's death, but law enforcement experts we spoke with say that could change very soon. A cruise ship tragedy takes a turn for the worst.
What Anna might have suffered is just horrific to think about.
New court documents say the FBI believes Anna Kepner's 16-year-old stepbrother is a suspect in her death. Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffendorfer says these new documents show the FBI does not think Anna's death was an accident.
Now we see the most important documents, which are court documents that show that this stepson is under investigation for the murder of Anna Kepner.
The new documents are part of an unrelated custody battle between Anna's stepmom and ex-husband. On Wednesday, we learned from these documents the 16-year-old under investigation is now living with a relative of his mother. The document also says it's believed an attorney has been hired to represent the 16-year-old.
Obviously, in this case, it was the inner circle that seemingly was involved in this horrific crime.
A crime on a Carnival cruise ship that took the life of a Titusville cheerleader that was cherished in the community. Her car was covered with flowers when it was parked outside Temple Christian immediately after her death. On Wednesday, Anna's car was moved to the family's home in Titusville and left out front. No trespassing signs lined the yard, and someone who opened the door said they had no comment about the new developments. Anna's step-grandfather told Fox News Digital, "We are living in a nightmare. The FBI has kept us in the dark, never contacted us. The Kepners haven't told us anything. We've learned from Facebook posts that the stepson is a suspect." Coffendorfer says the FBI could make an arrest as soon as they have Anna's exact cause of death from the Miami ME.
They're going to have to make a decision whether they arrest this individual or not pretty post haste. Why? This is a dangerous individual out there.
And if a minor is charged, this case could get even more complicated.
The FBI does not prosecute minors. The U.S. Attorney's Office does not prosecute minors.
And sources also tell Fox News Digital that right now the FBI is going through hours of security footage from that cruise ship. In that footage, they have been able to identify a suspect with Anna on the cruise. We're also told they have records of all of the room key card swipes going in and out of Anna's cabin. Reporting live in Titusville, Esther Bauer, Fox.
So I don't think FBI agent Coffendorfer is correct. The FBI doesn't prosecute. First of all, this case is also subject to international law since the ship was out on the water in international waters. And that's why the investigation was handled by the FBI. And I don't know what the law is in international waters, but on land, a 16-year-old although in most jurisdictions considered to be a minor, can be charged as an adult for certain crimes. So I don't know what former FBI agent Kaffendaffer is saying. That's not accurate. They can be charged as an adult when they do. And Mike, you're the attorney, so I'll let you speak to this.
Well, international law is very different than state law. But even though they were outside the territorial jurisdiction of the United States legal territorial jurisdiction, the FBI is the agency to investigate. Remember, all the people involved were U.S. citizens. So I would think so. Therefore, the FBI is the proper place, the agency to investigate this. They do prosecute. The U.S. attorneys do prosecute when if there's a crime on federal land, like say monuments, nation's capital, Washington D.C. Perhaps the state of Miami Attorney General will seek to extend jurisdiction based on the citizenship of everyone involved, and have it tried in the county in which the ship left and came back. Which I'm not sure of the counties in Florida, but there's a possibility this will be charged in a state court. And even though it happened outside the territorial jurisdiction, you've got everyone involved is an American citizen. So it would be up to, I think, also the the Florida Attorney General to try and assert jurisdiction over the case and get the file, get this person, get then personal jurisdiction by bringing this person into a state of Florida, criminal court, and talk about waiver from a child's court, a family court, to adult court. So there's some legal proceedings that have to go on, but Kaffendaffer was wrong. There are times when the U.S. Attorney's Office will charge minors with crimes.
But Mike, this will absolutely be prosecuted if he is in fact arrested in federal court, not in state court.
Yeah.
Because
it would have to be a federal court then in Florida, depending on how things work out.
Right. And the other thing that I mentioned yesterday was that when the FBI got involved in this case, one of the first things they would want to do, of course, secure the crime scene and all of that stuff, but is to interview the 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. And the law in New York City is to interview a minor. You must read Miranda to the minor and the guardian, the parent or legal guardian, and both must waive Miranda in order to make a statement. So we don't know whether or not that occurred. And I also don't know what the law is in international waters relative to Miranda. I mean, I'm not, that versed in that. I don't think most attorneys are either.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there have been times where, we've had people kidnapped from, say, the Far East, brought back into America, and brought into federal court and charged with crimes like international arms dealers and things like that. But so sometimes there are times when the Fourth Amendment applies, the search and seizure applies, and there are times when the Fifth and Sixth Amendment Miranda rights apply. But I don't want to hazard a guess in a case like this. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Whenever you want to interview a child anywhere in the United States, unless it's an absolute emergency, you have to get the parent or guardian there, read a Miranda, and they both have to waive. 100% right.
And I would think there's a good possibility in this case that they would have waived Miranda because, first of all, the mother doesn't seem that sharp, to be quite frank. And who was the only suspect here? Is this 16-year-old son.
Right.
So if the mother was really savvy, and of course I'm referring to Chantel Hudson, she would have refused to allow him to speak to the FBI. But I don't think that, in fact, is the case. So, folks, this is really a really disturbing case when you think about it. Families involved in this, really poor parenting decisions, but not a real mystery as to what occurred. Not a real mystery, but just because of the fact that it occurred on a cruise ship, and all of the things in regards to, was there alcohol involved? oh, wait a minute, it's a family. The digital evidence can put the victim where she was in her room, and the digital evidence can put her stepbrother in that same room. The 14-year-old brother hears sounds of an assault coming from that room. So it's not a real whodunit. It's build the case and let's make the arrest. That's what this is all about. Mike, your final thoughts.
We'll follow this case and watch it as it progresses. Very interesting. And hopefully we'll see a resolution that seems to make sense in this case, and try to get some justice for poor Anna. Hopefully we'll get some justice.
100%. And you know something, Mike, this is to me just whenever a young person like this starting out in their life loses their life, it's very disturbing to me and to the general public, to everyone following this. So folks, we're going to continue following this as this case moves forward. We're back. Police Off the Cuff is back, and we're so happy to be back. Folks that are just tuning in, if you didn't know, we were hacked and we were off the air for almost 2 weeks. And the effort it took to get back, to prove that we are who we say we are, was a monumental effort that two very smart people from Grow You Media, Anand and Tanu, helped us get our channel back. And I'm so thankful to them. Anyway, folks, as I said, we're going to keep following this. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a great day, everyone, and God bless.
One episode just ain't enough.